Let's go! Come on, everybody, and let's get to bumping, cause it's trailblazer time. Baby, Rip City's jumping now.
Brindle up the middle. Hit!
Come on, everybody.
All right, everybody, welcome to the 258th edition of the Holy Backboard Podcast. I am Dustin here in Rip City, and I got my man.
I drove from Medford, Oregon to Beaverton, Oregon today, and we're doing a podcast the same day. And my back hurts, but I'm here. I'm ready to talk about the Blazers week that was, and I created a new build in 2K, and I'm really ready to get all the hate messages that I deserve. So I'm ready.
What was the best two things? How was your Thanksgiving, and what was the best thing you ate over the weekend?
So how's the Thanksgiving? It was cool. Like, I made the mashed potatoes. My mom made turkey and stuffing. My brother made some really good collard greens with all the ham in the world. So it was cool. We all collaborated to make a fun dinner, and it was chill. I really did enjoy it. To answer your second question, I don't know if my mom listened to 2 weeks ago when I said we didn't make dessert. Well, that changed a lot. My mom has like these persimmon trees in her yard, and I guess this is the time to harvest them and freeze them. So we made persimmon cheesecake, persimmon bread pudding, persimmon brownies. So we were baking up a storm, and like this is the first time we've ever baked. Like my brother and I were just like, well, we don't have enough eggs, so let's just add more persimmon, and it worked. Like he was looking at the wrong recipe, and I was looking at the right one. So he doubled the butter and like the wet ingredients. I was like, well, shit, do we have to double the dry too? So we did, and we ran out of eggs, and we just used persimmon puree to account for 3 eggs. And it turned out great. So it was a very productive baking Thanksgiving period. How was yours?
It was good. The food we ordered was fantastic. I think the best thing that I ate, I'm going to toot my own horn. I think I make some incredible mashed potatoes. So those were probably my favorite. We also got like a cheese board and then we got some pickles and olives and crackers, and like went to town on those. Went hard. So we had a really late Thanksgiving dinner because we were like, no, we ate a lot of cheese.
So how do you make your mashed potatoes that sets it apart from other mashed potatoes?
One, I use red potatoes. I think red is the superior of the mashed potato. 2, leave the skins on. I think the skins have a good texture and they add a good taste. And then when you're making mashed potatoes, like usually when we cook, we try to like cook somewhat healthy and, not go too heavy on the fattier ingredients. But when it's Thanksgiving, put your milk in, make sure they're not too runny, like just a little bit of milk. But then like we use Greek yogurt, salt, pepper, cheese, shredded cheese, and don't skimp on the butter. Now you don't want it to go like overload. Like you taste as you go and you mash them, you drain them, all that good stuff. And you just season a little bit of garlic powder as well. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you just get it to your liking. And I like the mashed potatoes a little bit, not super creamy, like a little bit of texture and lumps. Do
you want a hint from a recipe from my grandfather, who you leave a little bit of the water that you boil the potatoes in, so it makes it a little more moist. So my mom was like, leave like a little bit so you can add, so that it can have all the gluten from the potatoes and make it a little more fluffy. So yeah, that's a tip. We used a lot of butter. And have you ever tried ghee, the clarified butter?
No.
That's some real foodie shit. Ghee. I think it's clarified butter, but we had this really nice ghee, butter, cheese, like all the shit I shouldn't eat because of my lactose intolerantism, but it didn't affect me. It did not affect me once. So
I was backed up Black Friday. let's just say that all the cheese. So you know,
Did you celebrate Black Friday?
online digitally.
Yeah, I got my mom a really nice coat, and then I got everybody in the family a nice coat for them cold weathers. Bro, like I remember when I was younger, I was like, I wore shorts in December, but now I'm bundled up like a weak person when it comes to cold, bro. Like beanie on. I was slippers on. Like I used to be a fucking menace to society in the cold. Now I am just so soft now. That old age is a motherfucker.
I had a few presents I needed to get for Olga, and I don't think any of them really were on. Only two of them were on discount. A couple just they were going to be the same price year round. But Olga unfortunately had to work, so I was home alone and
Like the movie.
like the movie. So I woke up and a piece of pecan pie with whipped cream and a cup of coffee sounded amazing. So I had that for breakfast. The pecan pie was probably the other best thing I had to eat. That was incredible. Still have a little bit left, so I'm thankful for that. And yeah, I did my shopping and I was done by like noon. Good to go. Even got my Secret Santa from work. So yeah, happy that was done, and went to Autzen Stadium on Saturday for Oregon State. And
That quarterback on the Beavers has the weirdest throwing motion ever. It looks like a damn like shortstop.
yeah,
I like your Ducks don't step on necks enough. They let Oregon in the game. If they didn't do dumb shit like avoid using their good kicker in the first few quarters, it would have been a much different game. Like, god damn, you guys just like to make it interesting. You don't want to just wire to wire kick their ass where they have no chance of. I think Anthony Brown, is that the quarterback's name?
Anthony Brown. Yeah, he had his probably his.
He was great. This was the game where he was great. Like I've watched a few, and it was like, oh, he doesn't look for the easy pass.
Mm-mm.
Like, I've watched Drew Brees a lot, and later in his career, Drew Brees hit the slant route all the time. Anthony Brown does not look at that slant route. Slant routes are for wimps. He's trying to find a much different.
He did on that touchdown, so he did a little bit, but the offensive line protected him, gave him all the time in the world. To your point, yes, they always make it interesting. It is the bane of my sports existence this year. Oddly enough, the game against Ohio State was probably their best performance from start to finish, and it was against their toughest opponent. So we'll see how they play against Utah in kind of a revenge game. It would be awesome to get back to the Rose Bowl once again. That's always that was actually my first Oregon State game at Autzen. I've been to 3 prior in Corvallis, so it was nice to be there this year. Great weather as always. And before we get into the Blazers, why I kept telling you to drive safe. I was on my way back. It's about 7:45. I'm like 1 mile away from my exit off of I-5. I have my windows down because I drive an older car and the defrost doesn't work super well. So I keep the windows down so it airs it out. It doesn't fog up. Have my music blaring, but I hear tires just screeching before I see it. I look in my rear view and I drive, this little 4-door sedan. This lifted big ass pickup is just right on my ass in the slow lane because I'm getting ready to exit and I'm having to speed up. Thankfully, there's nobody around me. He is swerving left and right, trying to get control of his vehicle. Finally does a 180, goes up against the barrier and comes nose to nose with the car in the far left-hand lane. Thankfully, that car in the left-hand lane had saw it unfolding and slowed down, so there wasn't a collision. But had that been in rush hour or more cars, like it would have been a major pileup. And I was just thankful that I didn't look like anybody got hurt. I was left unscathed, very fortunately, but it was like slow motion. You see this car coming at you and it really does slow down when you get in those moments. So always keep your head on a swivel. So anytime I hear that you're making that drive, I'm like, Be safe. I-5 is a monster.
Oh yeah, bro. I know this I-5 from Portland to Southern Oregon. I know it very well now. Like, I've never really had any close calls on the I-5. It's mostly close calls on like, city driving because people
Yeah.
are dummies. And sometimes I'm a dummy. But, even though the Blazers sometimes play like dummies, they're still our team.
Oh, Sage with the transition. I like it. Let's kick it off with a little good, bad, and ugly for the week that was. Before I get your good, a quick rundown of what happened for the Portland Trailblazers this past week. They went 1-3 as they knocked off the Denver Nuggets at home, 119-100. Dame and CJ looked brilliant together. But as expected, Portland goes winless on their 3-game road trip over the Thanksgiving holiday, losing 125-121 in Sacramento, dropping to 0-2 on the regular season against the Kings, who were without Rashawn Holmes, and De'Aaron Fox got ejected in the second half. The Golden State Warriors on Black Friday put Portland away with a huge third quarter run, 118-103. And then just now on Monday evening, the Utah Jazz used another third quarter run to put Portland away, defeating our Blazers 129-107. Sage, the Blazers fall to 10-11 on the regular season, which currently puts them in 10th in the Western Conference. What was your good from that week that was?
So I've bitched about minute rotations forever now this season. Yusuf Nurkic hit 30 minutes in a game this year. That is my good. The Kings at that time, I am unprepared for this. Alvin Gentry went with a big lineup of Damian Jones and Marvin Bagley from like the 6th minute of the third quarter till the end of the game. It kind of forced our hand to play Yusuf Nurkic extra stints because Marvin Bagley had probably his best game of the year up to that point, and Damian Jones was just skying over everybody for dunks. Shout out to Nasir Little for blocking that shot, one of the Damian Jones dunks. But we needed to go big, and for the first time all year, he let Yusuf Nurkic off the bench in the fourth quarter. He had 2 fourth quarter stints in this game. I know we didn't win, but to see that he was willing to actually play the big man made me really happy to see him go to 30 minutes. And then the next game we played, Yusuf Nurkic was like on 30% of people's rosters, but I knew that he wasn't getting anywhere close to 30 in the next game against the Warriors. Not happening. But I was very happy to see.
Not against Golden State.
No way.
Golden State is a team where you have to play 5 defenders that can switch and switch well, because if there's even one weak link,
They can expose.
Draymond Green, Steve Kerr, and Steph Curry are going to expose you. And they are some of the smartest players and coaches currently in the league. And it was just impressive watching how they were manipulating Portland to where they wanted to go. And so that's where it was like, it was good that Yusuf played against Sacramento, but you could tell that they were putting him in pick and rolls, and he's not going to be able to go under or over Steph Curry on a screen. Like CJ and Anthony were losing Steph in the bad of the night. That's just how incredible Curry is. That's not a knock.
What can Yusuf do? He's 300 pounds and 7 feet. He has no chance. But I was very happy to see that Chauncey Billups at least played him 30 minutes in a game where it was beneficial to go big.
My good for the week, it's short and sweet. 15 of the next 19 games for Portland are at home.
So that means in April, it's all the way, huh?
Portland is 9-1 at home, which is the second best in the NBA behind the Golden State Warriors, who are 11-1. I took an early guess just before this podcast and just kind of played schedule maker. I think they win at least 11 of those 12 home games.
Could you say them out loud to us?
Oh, I mean,
I'm sorry. I'm making you read. My bad.
well, let's go down. All right. So Pistons, probably a dub. Spurs, a dub. Celtics, I'll give them that win. I think they beat the Clippers and they split the season series with Los Angeles. You got Minnesota, that's a dub.
Dub.
Probably lose to Phoenix, probably beat Memphis, probably beat Charlotte. I think Brooklyn probably gets us. And then you've got two games, not back to back, but back to back in terms of the schedule. Dallas and Utah, I think they split those. I don't know which one gets the win, which one gets the loss. Atlanta's probably a victory. Miami seems to give us fits, so I'll give the Heat the win there. And then you finish off with Cleveland and Sacramento, which I think they'll win both of those. So that's probably 11 wins right there. And the road games aren't much more winnable. I mean, you're looking at Golden State, Memphis, New Orleans, in Los Angeles.
Win. We're gonna win against New Orleans.
Maybe, if Zion might be back by then. So
I don't believe it, but
December 21st. That's a month.
Oh man,
Yeah, he'll be back.
I can't wait to watch Herb Jones on one of our guards.
Either way, you're looking at Portland being 11 wins, maybe a road victory in there. You're looking at 21-19, 22-18. That's 3 to 4 games above 500. You would hope that at that point that Portland could then take that mojo on the road and string together some victories. But Portland also has to be very cautious that they don't fall into the trap of fool's gold, where, yeah, you're winning all these games. Like I said, Portland could reel off all those home victories, but if they don't win on the road or look competitive on the road, it's hard to take Portland seriously. When you also factor in that the Western Conference, I think, is significantly down this year. A lot of it has to do with age of some certain superstars. When you're looking at like a LeBron in Los Angeles, they also traded for Westbrook, who hasn't been the best fit. You look at the Denver Nuggets, who have just been decimated by injuries. You've got Michael Porter Jr., who just had back surgery. He's out for the entire season. Jamal Murray probably won't be back until the spring. PJ Dozier tore his ACL against the Blazers.
That was a sad one.
He is out for the season. So you have Denver, who is not going to be a factor this year. Could they win a round like they did last year without Jamal Murray? Absolutely. But I think that's Denver's ceiling. You start to look ahead. Dallas still hasn't found that piece next to Luka Doncic. Who knows what Kawhi looks like when he comes back? Really, it's Golden State and Phoenix. Utah's at 14-7. They're probably up in that echelon as well. But Golden State and Phoenix, and then really 4 through 10 right now, 25% into the season, Portland's only a game and a half back of the Clippers. The Clippers are at 11-9. Portland's at 10-11. And I really don't see any of the teams not currently in the play-in when you talk about Sacramento, San Antonio, OKC, New Orleans, Houston. I don't see those teams making a charge to come up into that play-in scenario. So if you're Portland, you're kind of doing a balancing act, right? You want to make sure you get your victories, but you also want to make sure that you are, I don't know if style points is the right way to look at it, but you want to play the right way. You definitely want to rack up some victories on the road, because the way the West is currently stacked, that 4 seed is so gettable. Mm-hmm. And you can reach, I think the Blazers ceiling is the second round. You can reach your ceiling if you start to handle your business. And the schedule has been incredibly easy so far for the Blazers, especially given the teams they've played without their heavy hitters. They're about to get a huge dose of home cooking. If they can, now is the time to make their move, is essentially what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if it makes them a championship contender. I think everyone in Rip City probably wants to see them make a deal. But for the time being, this is the roster that is currently competing on a night in and night out basis. If they are a sprinter and they're running a race, now is when they have to hit their kick. Because you have to start to get some separation from these teams. You have to start to get above 500, get some momentum. Because if you don't do it now, Sage, just like you mentioned when I told you 15 of the next 19 are at home, those road games are coming, and they're coming up quick. And you want to have a good cushion when those road games come a-calling.
There's going to be a lot of away games. when do the Blazers just believe we're a bad away from home team? Do you think that's starting to set in with them going one win and a bunch of losses? When I was watching that Utah game, though, I felt like Utah had it in hand the entire time. They were playing like Terry Stotts's Dame years, where Dame just did everything and pounded the ball in the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, they were just like, oh, this team's bad at defense. Let's just abuse them. When does the point where they have to win some away games, or this is going to be a legitimate real thing? Or is it already a legitimate real
thing? It has to already be there, Sage. When you are 1-10 on the road with only the Houston Rockets as
that's a bad win. Like that's not a statement win at all.
Houston is the only worst road record in the entire league. You've already played more than 25% of your road games. What I have seen from Portland is they just kind of have no effort and no fight on the road. Like they get punched in the mouth and they just kind of recoil, and like they just take that result. They're like, yep, we're losing tonight. When you see them at home, they can be down 20 and they believe they're going to come back. It's really an oddity. I can't put my finger on it. Maybe it's all of the uncertainties that's, hanging above the franchise, whether it's Olshey, whether it's Lillard, whether it's McCollum, the new coach, just everything.
Rotations,
everything that has gone on. I mean, you don't want to dog. I don't think they're a team that would dog it in front of their home fans. And I think that's probably what's keeping them alive at home is shit. We don't want to get booed. Like these fans pay good money to watch us play. Like, let's go out there and have some hometown pride. But on the road, it's like, whatever. Like,
I feel like this team knows they suck on the road, and it shows.
It's a mentality now. It's almost like, when you go up to the free throw line and you like, oh, I'm a bad free throw shooter. I'm not going to make
You're bricking.
You brick it.
Mm-hmm.
When you have confidence and you show up, it comes through. But that shows you the week that was like that was our good. And we started to get into other topics that weren't as good.
I have a good B.
Okay. You're good.
Anthony Simons went nuclear a bunch this week. He had a really awesome third quarter against the Warriors, which made the game look like it was closer than it actually is. And then
he was 10 for 15 tonight.
Yeah, he's had some really high ceiling games, some nuclear games. So to see him perform, like we shouldn't that Warriors game to bring Draymond back to defend Anthony Simons. So having the best defender in the league have to guard your fourth year guard is pretty good. So that's my good junior.
What's your bad for the week?
Bad, I've started to notice this. Teams don't respect Nasir Little's shot at all. If you watch that game today, when Bojan Bogdanovic was on Nasir Little, he treated him like Kent Bazemore. He treated him like the Utah Jazz showed more respect to Yusuf Nurkic hitting a corner three than they did to Nasir Little. And I think that's starting to be a trend. They know the scouting report on Nasir is that he's a really good slasher and an inconsistent shooter. So if teams are just, when he's in, they're just collapsing the paint. So there's not much that the Blazers can do when you're driving to the paint for the kick, shoot. Well, if you can't drive to the lane because they're trapping you essentially because they don't respect our shooters, that's a problem. So Nasir Little needs to at least show that he's willing to shoot the three so that they can show a little respect to him. Because when I was watching him, like they just did not care what he did. As long as he wasn't actively slashing, he was not a threat. So I think that's why Tony Snell started with Norman Powell, because he at least has the respect of the opposing team. Like if he's open, he'll shoot it and probably make it at a 4 out of 10 clip. With Nasir, they don't even trust him at all. So the spacing with Nasir Little when he was in the game this week was my bad.
Yeah, and in a season like this, I still want to see Nasir shoot the ball. I want to see him develop. I don't care if he goes 1 for 10. I think he needs the reps. I think
The PT is invaluable for him right now.
Exactly. I mean,
but it's just something that I noticed. Like, our offense is awful right now. Why? Oh shit! The small forward at all times doesn't respect our 3-point shooting, youngest player. That's a problem. So we need to. I don't know how to get people to respect his shot in any. Like, I think everybody's seen the highlight dunks and the top shots, so they know. Oh, this guy is an athletic freak. But they don't respect the shot whatsoever. So it was just like it was triggering me. Like, is Kent Bazemore on their team? Why is it such bad spacing?
This year, you have the other forward opposite in this year almost refuses to shoot the basketball.
Yeah, something's wrong with him, man. I used to make fun of Tony Snell for he's just running cardio right now. Robert Covington's running cardio right now, and did you see the replay of him throwing the mask and it ricocheting it? Did you think he deserved to get kicked out of the game for that?
No, he like I think I was listening to on the radio. He always throws his mask, like just toss it, like it just happened to bounce and hit the official, and they get in a tizzy fit and like, oh, we have to throw you out because you made no. But I don't think I did not like the call.
Yeah, I mean, he's a 6'8" body, and when you're so lacking in height, having him put so much more stress on, Larry Nance and Yusuf. So it was a damn shame that he was kicked out. But what is your bad for this week?
My bad for this week is the defense. And I wanted to see if the statistics were matching what my eyes and ears were telling me. Because usually, you go by the eye test, and then you look at the stats, you're like, oh, that doesn't match up. Well, it matched up for me. So the defense was my bad for the week, especially on the road. Portland is allowing 116.8 points per game on the road. They've only held one opponent below 100 points in 11 games away from the Rose City. Of course, that was against Houston, their only victory, allowing just 92 points. Even more, I think, worrisome is Portland just isn't competitive on the road right now. The average margin of defeat is by 14.5 points, and 7 of the 10 losses on the road were by 10 or more points. And so then I dug a little bit deeper and just wanted to take a look at Portland's, statistics defensively, but also compare them last year, because everyone knew defense was an issue last year. I mean, we spent countless of hours complaining about Terry Stotts and his defensive schemes. Neil Olshey also went out and made, I would say, obviously not significant, but he did make moves to address the defensive side of the ball, especially off of the bench, allowing Enes Kanter and Carmelo Anthony to walk, bringing in Larry Nance Jr. and Cody Zeller to kind of shore up that defensive back line off the bench. And, overall, it really hasn't made too much of a difference. So if you look down, Portland's defensive rating is 29th this year. It was 29th last year. It's better by about 4 points, but it's still second worst in the league. Portland is also 25th in opponent points per game. They're giving up about 111 points per game. They were 23rd in that category last year, giving up 114. Scoring is down this year. That's why that number is higher, even though
do you think the 4-point differential is because you can be way more physical?
I think that's a great observation. Teams are being more physical, less fouls are being called. I mean, just scoring is down, field goal percentage is down across the league. So I think you can attribute that there. And then in field goal percentage, Portland is second worst in field goal percentage for opponents, allowing 47.7%. They were about that same percentage last year, 47.3. That was 25th last year. And then I wanted to look at the arc, that the arc is such a critical component to defense in the modern game. And Portland is abysmal there as well. They rank 28th in opponent 3 points made per game, nearly 14 per game. And they rank 29th in opponent 3-point field goal percentage, Sage, 47.3%.
So do you think
38? They allow 38.7% from downtowns. And in regards to last year, Portland was 19th in 3 points made, 12.9. So they are allowing one more 3-point made per game this year. And the percentage is similar. They allowed 37.2 this year. So they are not defending the arc, even with upgrades off of the bench. And then lastly, the one I wanted to look at, because I've always said that teams that make Portland make the extra pass on defense. You just kind of, you can carve Portland's defense up like a Thanksgiving turkey. I saw that against Utah. There was a play in the second quarter where they were swinging it around the perimeter, and then Conley ended up dribbling it and throwing a lob to Gobert. Teams that assist the ball at a high clip are going to shred Portland's defense. And sure enough, Portland allows the second most assists per game by an opponent, 26.1. They were 16th last year, 24.9. So yeah, they may be better guarding the pick and roll this year, but teams are figuring out, if you just, like you said, Utah, first quarter, they were just dribbling the ball, but then they started to figure out, hey, if we make them move and think, the rotations aren't going to get there on time, they're going to find the weakness, and they're getting really any look that they want.
The initial defense is better. You like
yes.
eyeball test. They're obviously trying harder. But I think that it's because of the scheme that makes them try harder. I feel like this scheme is really awful for Robert Covington. And he's supposed, like, you've seen all the shit that Chauncey Billups has said about Robert Covington supposedly being our guy. But I think that putting him in a box the way that he is supposed to like play defense for this team is really negatively affecting him. So
he's not Ben Simmons. He's not Draymond Green. He cannot lock up someone one-on-one.
Well, so the what they do with Robert a lot is he's helping on like literally half the court is Robert Covington's responsibility. That is putting that much pressure on him to make every play. Like, let's say that they're loading up on the strong side of the floor. He is responsible for all of the weak side defense. Putting that much pressure on him, and then on pick and rolls, having to cover for everybody. Like, I know he's not playing good offense right now, but I don't think he's put in any good position defensively to make plays. And I think last year, the saving grace for us not being an all-time bad team was Robert Covington's effort. Like, he single-handedly won us some games defensively. Now let's putting like Kawhi Leonard amounts of pressure on him to make plays every game, and just not him. He's an off-ball free safety. He's not Ramsey on the Rams. He is I don't know. I feel like this defense isn't, with the rule change, I don't think it's any better than it was last year. Because if, let's just say you could have Enes Kanter be a bigger bully, would he be as big of a liability if he could use his hands on players like the way that they're playing defense? He wouldn't nearly be as bad. And Carmelo Anthony being able to be a cheeky defender and like probably pull the jersey. So I mean, like it has a more aggressive package, but when you really look at what we are as a defense, are we that different than a Terry Stotts coach team? Smart teams are going to find the weakness. Like, imagine what Chris Paul can do against this team when we play him.
And you watch Steph and the Warriors, like that's the litmus test, right? They're the best team in the NBA right now. And he's arguably the MVP front runner.
He was bored carving up our defense, man. Like when you see him do like celebratory shots and shit, he's bored playing against it. It's so easy. Like, it's easy for him to diagnose what's happening.
I don't think any coach with any scheme can have even an average defense with the way the roster is currently constructed. And that goes back to being undersized and I think underskilled on the defensive end. Like, defense is a skill. And we've talked about it ad nauseum, Sage. If you can't stop the ball, or if anyone who can just say, I'm taking the hot man, I'm going to stop them from scoring, it just all kind of falls apart one way or another, either in the pick and roll or off of dribble penetration or off of ball movement, player movement. One way or another, a good to great team is going to find a way to make you pay. And when you lack size and you lack skill on that end of the floor, this is the result. And I think this is a huge reason why they are playing so poorly on the road is teams play better at home. So you're going to get a teams best shot on their home court. And when you have that roster, that scheme, and that mentality that we're going to lose, that's why we're seeing 7 of 10 losses by double digits, why we're seeing 15-point margin of defeats. Like, Portland is not even competitive. And I think if Portland were 1-10, and I know nobody would want to be 1-10 on the road, but if they were 1-10 and maybe they were just like losing by 3 or 4 points, you can see that, one or two plays here or there, and it's going to turn around. Like, it's an 82 game season. Like the
we're
laws,
losing at such a deficit. There's
everything is about to even out, but no, it hasn't even been close. And I think the concerning area is teams make that one run and Portland's not even countering. There's not even a punch back. It's like they're getting knocked out and the referee saying, that's a 10 count. We're done with this game.
Second round knockout. It's a cannabis reference. Anyway,
I figured it was.
Okay, so I have a thought exercise for you. Let's say a genie granted you a wish, and the wish was you could add 5 inches to this roster. How are you dividing the 5 inches? I know this is a bad one, but if you can increase the height of our players by 5 inches total, how are you allocating the height increase
from our current starters,
our current team? Do you make Dame a super duper star by making him 6'7"? Or so how are you making this team better if the genie said you can increase the height?
This is a really good. Did you just think of this?
Yeah, I just thought of it while you were talking.
God damn, that is a good ass question. Dame's already like 6'3", right?
Yeah.
I'd give Dame 2 inches just so he'd be even more legit. I would give Anthony Simons.
So he'd be 6'5" or something?
I'd give him 3. I'd give him the other 3 because I think he's got the.
So he'd be your starting 3.
2 and Nas 1. Nas would get a little bit bigger so he could really play the 3. And Anthony, I'd make him 6'6" because I think he at 6'6" could be an all-star. So Dame, Ant, Nas. The 3 biggest hope silver linings on the season.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like,
I thought about Norman Powell, but I think at 6'4" he can play the 2 guard just fine. I thought about CJ, but then even CJ taller doesn't. The styles of play still kind of.
I mean, I couldn't imagine CJ being 6'8" dribbling like the way he does.
Yeah, I think his size actually benefits him if that makes any sense.
Because he's harder to see when you're like let's say a center's fighting, the guard's fighting through a screen and can't use his 7 feet and humongous. So it's
the one that I would consider. I wouldn't change any of my answers, but I think if there was a 4th, it would be Larry Nance, so he could actually play the center.
So it could be 7 feet.
and you can have a fully switchable lineup. I think that would be a consideration for me.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough. Like, if Dame was 6'7", he might, with that shot and those dribbling skills, like, shit, we don't need the 4 other players. Just let Dame go 1v1 against everybody. But yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like you got to make the 2 and 3 a little taller. So I think I think Nasir Little would be a really good person to make, like, if he's really 6'5", let's make him 6'7". Because I think with his jumping ability as a 6'7" forward, he could play the 4. Like, he ends possessions with those rebounds. So yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking, like, how would you improve the team with height? But I think, like, it has to be in the wings, like, just the way that we have to play defense with them covering the rolling big. It's like, Nas can do a lot better if he's 6'7" than 6'5".
What was your ugly for the week?
I think the injury on Norman Powell has to be my ugly. Like, to see, because he landed on top, or Robert Covington landed on top of him, and he was like not feeling good after that. And then when he went up for that layup and Draymond met him, like, the way he limped, I was like, oh shit, this is legitimately serious. And I don't want to know what our offensive defense looks like when, Tony Snell's taking those shots or playing that defense. Like I in that Utah game, I really missed Norman Powell. So him being gone was definitely my ugly.
Pardon the pun or the play on words, but my ugly, I would just say the Portland stale Blazers. And it kind of goes back, like it was hard because, right, the team goes 1-3 and the trends really held serve. They won at home, they're bad on the road. Like, how do we find a different way to talk about this team on a weekly basis when we're seeing the same results? We're seeing everything is the same. And that's kind of where I was like, everything is the same. And I think that's why that's my ugly for the week is despite a new coach, multiple offseason moves, Portland's had great health. Only Norman Powell has missed time in our rotation. I think it's been a manageable schedule. The team is worse off compared to last year. Right now, at this point, Portland was 12-9, including 7-4 on the road. And 10 of those games were played without CJ McCollum and Yusuf Nurkic, who got significantly injured. Right now, you're 10-11, 1-10 on the road, and you've had great health. Like, that is mind-blowing to me that how I think upset we were last year. Portland somehow was even better, and they are outpacing this current roster, which doesn't pass the smell test. But here we are.
How much did you talk about how negatively affected our offense is?
No.
Because I would be curious to see what the difference is between our offense last year and this year. Because I feel like our offense last year was way more potent than it is this year.
Well, yeah, because do you think the main culprit of that is Dame playing off ball?
Probably. Because I am of the mind that you give your best player the ball in their hand. Yeah. If we had Draymond Green, sure, he can play off ball.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Here you go. Well, we saw it in the Olympics. He's not good at it. So,
yeah, exactly. He
takes weird angles. Like when they do the Iverson cut to get him space, he takes really obscure angles to get the ball past him.
He's not used to playing off the ball.
He's frustrated as hell doing it because
why would he make this change in year 10? That's my biggest question. Dame is not a spring chicken. He doesn't have.
He's my age, right? Like he and I are the same age.
He's 31.
I'm younger. Nice, but like I feel like I don't think the coach built the scheme around their best player. I think he built the scheme around CJ to make him better. And I think that is a weird swing of logic to make it so your secondary player is as involved as your star. I think it's a weird, I think that this scheme negatively affects Dame. I think it negatively affects Yusuf. I think it negatively affects Norman. Ant and CJ are the two that I'm like, oh, there's a legitimate increase in production because of this. So I think that the scheme is at a fundamental disadvantage when is not making Dame's life easier. In fact, it's making it a lot harder because he has to fight off of, let's say we're playing Minnesota because we're playing them. Do you think Patrick Beverley is going to let Dame get the ball off ball? Do you think that Drew Holiday is going to let Dame get the ball off ball? Like, they're going to make him exert so much energy to get away from them to receive the ball than if he just had the ball in his hands. So I think absolutely him having the ball less, and don't get me wrong, look at the stats. He has the ball in his hands quite a bit, but they're force feeding, it's like force feeding other players to take difficult shots. And I think that it's weird to make the best player's life a little harder.
Yeah, and I think a lot was made of the free throws and the way the officials were officiating the game this year and how Dame was probably the most negatively affected of all of the star players. However, in the past few games, he's had double-digit free throw attempts, and he's averaging 4.6 free throw attempts per game. That's only 2.6 less than last season. He's only taking one fewer shot than last season. However, he averaged 28.8 points per game. He's down to 22. Where Damian Lillard is struggling is in the percentages. He's 45% from the field last year, 40% this year. And the big difference, 10.5 threes per game at 39% clip compared to 9.5 this year at a 30% clip. That's where Damian Lillard is struggling. I think that's where you can pinpoint the Blazers offense as struggling. I think he was getting better looks with the ball in his hands off of the high pick and roll, letting those 3-pointers fly. That's where I believe Portland's offense has struggled, not getting your best player the ball. Like I will say, when you watch the team play, they do have good ball movement. The ball movement has been better. I don't think the ball sticks as much as it did last year, but I don't think that has made up for the fact that your best player and a top 10 player in the game is not getting the same shots, put in the same situations. Like those two don't have equal weight. And I think that's what is attributed.
Yeah, it's negatively correlated when Robert Covington's shooting more shots than Dame's shooting less. That's a negative correlation for wins. Ball movement's great. It really is. But I feel like if you're creating shots for people that aren't as good as your best player, it's like, it's helping them, but is it helping our team win? Sometimes Dame just needs to be the best player on the team and say, hey, step back, daddy's about to win us this game. Or I think he's doing a really good job of getting people the ball, but this team's based on
taking
Dame
12 shots against Utah. That can't happen.
No, like, he is our Allen Iverson. How many times did Allen Iverson not touch the ball in a possession on the Sixers?
Few.
Yeah. And I think that we're doing a lot of the shit Philadelphia did in 2001 now. Maybe it's because Chauncey Billups played then. But, like, we're trying to make him be something he's not, man. Let the guy who's used to touching the ball touch the ball.
I just don't think we're getting many of those.
He doesn't have the ceiling he did last year.
No, we're not getting those surge moments that we've just grown so accustomed to seeing. And I think you need those on the road more than you do at home. We've talked about this. Role players play better at home. On the road, you need your superstar to set the tone and to bail out the rest of the team when kind of things are going south and kind of stabilize everyone. But when he's not being put in position to do that, that's not really going to happen. And that kind of brings up my next point. It wasn't really a part of an ugly or a bad, but I just noticed that against Denver, Dame and CJ both played so efficient, and Denver had no chance. However, that doesn't happen enough. Frankly, It rarely happens. You look at this road trip, Dame and CJ combined were incredibly inefficient, and that is a recipe for disaster. On this last 3-game road trip, the two of them combined to shoot 35 of 99, which is 35%, 12 of 40 from downtown, 30%. When you're shooting that volume, 35% and 30% aren't going to cut it. And that's Portland in a nutshell right there. I mean, right now, Dame and CJ is what they're hanging their hat on. And it's been discussed. We know where we stand on that, but it's just further cements the fact that when those two don't play efficient, the Blazers have zero chance at winning a game.
And now that the refs aren't calling as many fouls, like Dame can be last year, Dame could be completely inefficient, but he has 10 free throws, makes it a lot easier. I think that the refs are eventually, like, I think the 3-point fouls absolutely do away with them. But when you're driving to the hole and you get fouled and they don't call it, that is fucking annoying. Like, it feels like the refs are starting to be more attentive to like rewarding the aggressive drives and shit. But I when we're inefficient and free throws or easy shots don't bail us out, it's rough out there. But I feel like easy shots have always been an issue for us. I feel like the only time we were good at like easy like putbacks, Ed Davis getting rebounds.
The Blazers, since I've been a fan, have never been good at getting easy shots. The early 90s teams were criticized for their half-court inefficiencies. They were murder in the fast break, but that was the rap on them. The 2000 Blazers, they didn't have a go-to player. They hung their hat on defense. It was a different player every night, kind of bailing them out. Mm-hmm. I remember Charles Barkley first really brought it up during the Rise with Us Blazers when it was Nate McMillan's ISO ball with Brandon Roy. Portland never got out and ran. They always, they grinded it out in the half court. And then now it's the same thing, just substitute Dame for Brandon. And that's how it's been. So this team, even with all of its greatness, probably only the 77 Blazers were able to manufacture great shots on a consistent basis, and that was due to Maurice Lucas and Bill Walton's brilliance. Sage, dribble, pass, shoot. Actually, dribble or shoot. We're going to make this a weekly occurrence until something happens. Dribble or shoot. This is the week we find out about Neil Olshey.
I'm feeling like we're going to get it in Christmas, so...
Or excuse me, pass or shoot.
Yeah, so I would dribble it, but
we're in week 4. This is week 4.
I feel like if we're a good organization, it would have already been done. But since that's a questionable thing right now, I think we're waiting a few more weeks. So I'll pass. What about you?
I'm going to shoot it. I'm trying to speak it into existence.
I mean, like, there's so many decisions to be made. Like, we're putting ourselves at, like, when's the trade deadline? Like March?
Early February?
That's in 2 months. There's so many decisions that need to be made before that. Like, could you imagine re-signing Robert Covington now? With him playing 15 minutes a game? Like, we need to trade some play. Like, we have 4 guys that are under 6, like they're under 6'4", that are our 4 best players. Like, holy shit. There needs to be some shit that changed, and it hasn't. And I don't think it'll happen till the new year, man.
Hope you are wrong there, but let's get to some fan questions before we look ahead to this current schedule.
I haven't looked at any of these. This is going to be a complete surprise.
Question from longtime listener Kim Thrasher. Kim wants to know why can't the Blazers play real basketball on the road? They can't just be a home team. Worst record in the NBA. That's cool.
First off, I would like to say love you, Kim, but I don't know, man.
I think it's a mentality, like we talked about with the free throws. You start doing something enough and you get the same results. You start to expect that to happen when you do that same action. Now they're getting peppered with questions by the media. Why aren't you guys winning on the road? They see the scoreboard. They know they're not winning on the road. They don't expect to win on the road. That is a huge, the mental aspect of the game is such a huge portion of it. I remember I had all of these early 90s Blazers videos that every year they did a video yearbook. And I think it was the 91 video yearbook. The Blazers went like 27-14 on the road. At the time, it was a franchise record. Jerome Kersey was interviewed, and he's like, every time we stepped out on the court, we didn't think we were going to win. We knew we were going to win. We expected to win. You have to have that mentality when you're on the road. You've got 20,000 people against you. You're going up against a team that's comfortable in their own gym. You're probably playing the 3rd game in 5 nights. You're not sleeping in your own bed. You're not seeing your family. You're seeing the same people over and over again. You have to go out there and want to prove people wrong. You have to have a nastiness. Portland has none of that. They're so casual right now. Just watching them play, it looks like they're just, cool, we're out here. We're just, playing some playground ball, just, kind of chilling, not taking it super super seriously. There's no fire. There's no spark. There's nothing that the team is collectively rallying behind. There are not just one thing. There are multiple things missing from this team. And those are just some of the reasons that I think the Blazers aren't playing good basketball on the road.
So I've been seeing this on Twitter. Do you think it's time we bring in some asshole that's going to yell and scream at people's faces? Or how do we get
Player
that
or
aggressive
coach?
player? That's what people want. Like, some people want some guy that's going to scream in people's faces.
Who? That would be my question to those people, is who? Because if you're going to scream and yell, you have to have the reputation. You have to have the credibility. If you're just some bench warmer, they're going to run you out of the locker room.
Remember how CJ dealt with Festus Ezeli? Like, you're not even on the court, man. You don't deserve. We don't care what you have to say.
I thought that was not a good look on CJ's part, because Festus Ezeli had won an NBA championship. He was just trying to help out. So I did not agree with CJ there. But yeah, you can see that's how they handle things in an NBA locker room. Sage, really, I can think of two players that would be able to do that right now.
Pat Bev?
No, God, no. I think he has a terrible reputation, especially in Portland. Udonis Haslem, but he's not leaving Miami.
He's not leaving Miami.
And Draymond Green, he ain't leaving Golden State. Those are the two players that I think could walk into the locker room right now and say, shut the fuck up. Here's what we're going to do. And everyone would respect and listen. That's it.
Yeah. I just think that, like, the yelling and screaming shit doesn't work now. These play like
it does, but it has to be by the right. The person doing it has to have a weight behind their words, and not many people have that, like, in today's NBA. That's why those players are so rare.
And they don't leave their team.
You can't just have some rando walk up and start rah-rahing and getting in somebody's face. It's not going to hold any weight. They're just going to tell you to piss off.
I think, like, I watched, like, Willie Green, and I feel like the way to get these guys to play better is to inspire them and not, like, shit on their mistakes. So I have a different way of, like, I want my guys to communicate better with each other as a team and work together to create one common cause. I think, like, the yelling, screaming shit just doesn't work.
Also, maybe the team just isn't good. So I don't think anybody expected 1-10 on the road bad, but it's not a good constructed team. So when you face teams in their home gyms, they're just kind of picking them apart. So it's a lot of uphill obstacles for the Blazers to navigate, and they're not even getting past the first couple, unfortunately.
So is there another fan question, or do we just have beloved Kim Thrasher?
One more. One more. No, two more. One's a quick one that I'll make a comment on. But question from at Kat Renzer, one of my favorite follows on Twitter. Catherine wants to know, what are some best tips for self-care in reference to this tumultuous, and I just made up that word, Trailblazer season.
That sounds like a disease in the fucking 40s. 1840s, not 1940s. I got the tumulus. I have only a week to live.
Well, don't watch the Trailblazers if you only have a week to live. You want to be happy. What are your
watch the Warriors or the Suns or someone fun.
What are your self-care tips, Sage?
Like, my self tips are different than yours because you've been a fan of this team for 30 plus years. I've only done it 10, so day to day watching this team isn't as bad as it is for people that have lived the Rip City life for a while. I bet against the Blazers and I'm normally right. So I guess get into the Oregon sports book and bet against the other team. And
Sage, are we going to need to put one of those disclaimers in the podcast? Like, if you need to seek gambling help, please call this number.
I haven't gambled in 3 days.
I know. I was saying you were saying, hey, gamble for self-care. I think we need to put some disclaimers in there.
Well, what I do is, who are we playing next? Detroit Pistons.
Yes.
I'm going heavy on Sadiq Bey and DFS. I'm going heavy on Jeremy Grant and DFS. We're an awful defensive team. So yeah, I try and I try not to get as up and down as most people. I think I have a more even keel. I guess I shouldn't have done the arm movement of even on a podcast, but I try and stay more even keel than, I use the knowledge I have of this team to my financial gain more. So
yeah, I think that's a really good point. That's worked for me this year. Like I due to the whole debacle with Root Sports, I'm only able to watch the national games. So when I do get to watch them, like I just try to enjoy it. Like if root for them to do well. If they win, cool. If they lose, cool. When I listen to the games on the radio, like just kind of accept whatever loss happens. Like don't really root for either result. Like there's removing emotion from the sport.
I think you've done a really good job at that, because you as a person is very emotional. So to take that away from the result that you're, like you have a Blazers room, you have multiple Blazers room. I'm looking at your office right now. Like you've done a very good job of taking the emotion out of the game. Cause I am who you text during Blazer games mostly. You do not you have the emotion for most of our friendship. It's like, oh, we're doing shitty. I'm going to get a text from Dustin about how shitty we're doing eventually. So I want to congratulate you on your taking some of the emotion out of watching Blazer games. Because
yeah, it's also like knowing the expectation of this team, right? They are a second round ceiling. They're gonna make the playoffs. They're probably going to go on some win streaks. They're probably going to go on some losing streaks. So just go into that knowing it. Also, like
watch other games too.
I've watched other teams. I've read more than I've ever. No, I wouldn't say I've more than ever. I've been doing a good job of reading probably the past 5 years. But like finding different books to read. I still like watching old games. That's been I just love nerding out on that and finding other.
We'll also do some throwback Thursdays because this shit's not fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I get to see you. So
that's
cool.
it. Yeah. Because that's a challenge to discuss. Like, what are we going to talk about? They won at home. They lost on the road. Like
find some players that you love. Like I love Herbert Jones.
Yeah.
So I get to watch her play defense.
Players you like that aren't on the Blazers that you can follow.
Who are some of the guys that you love watching?
Right now, Ja Morant's my guy.
That damn shame about his injury,
but thankfully it's not season ending.
Yeah, I think that who we're going to play in a few days is one of my favorites, DeJounte Murray. I love Cole Anthony. If anyone wants the 12 cereal on the newest Top Shot, I got you.
Also, not being emotional.
Scotty Barnes is also awesome.
Has allowed me to enjoy other teams. Like I love the Bucks with Giannis and Drew. I enjoy watching the Warriors now. Like they're not my rival. Like they're fun to watch. Watching Steph run around the court has been fun. Phoenix is on a 16-game win streak. Like there's a lot of the Lakers are losing. That's something we all can rally behind.
Yeah.
So there are things to do.
College basketball is coming. Like watch Gonzaga or Duke.
Yeah, scout young prospects.
We don't have a pick in the first round, most likely, but still.
I did today was really good. Like turned off the lights, had the Christmas lights in the house, lit some candles, had the radio on, and was just like, was just chatting with Olga, but also petting the cats. Like just had the game on. Like it wasn't top of. Like all of my attention was devoted to it. Like also. Don't feel bad if you miss a game. Like that's this team's not worth it. Not right now to be like diehard fan where you have to watch every single game or you feel like you're.
This isn't the year to do that. Like
no. This is the year.
Only reason I do it is because of this. One of us needs to watch these damn games. So I watch every game, but it's like Like if we're losing by 25, I'm playing Grand Theft Auto while I'm watching.
If
Like,
I could, I still probably would watch every game. But
yeah, like
Root Sports has been.
oh, I have. Did we do our uglies? I don't remember.
Yes, we did.
Oh, can I add another ugly?
Ugly Junior.
Yeah, well, this might be ugly senior to be completely honest.
Ugly the third.
Like this is the first, like the ugly that I said that I Norman Powell's injury. It's secondary actually. On Charter, or I guess it's Spectrum. There's the HD and the standard def. Standard def is on both. There's no HD on Spectrum cable, right, in Southern Oregon. So we go from, the base channel to the HD, same fucking thing. There's the big black bar surrounding it on both. And then sometimes on the HD channel, you get the perfect HD, no sound. So fuck Root Sports.
Sorry, Norman Powell. Sorry you got hurt, but I need my HD. You are the ugly senior.
This is watching fucking 2000s basketball, man. Like, I need, like, I remember you texting me. Why is De'Aaron Fox so mad? I was fucking if I know. I can't see shit with his standard definition. So yeah, that's my ugly. Fucking Christ, Root Sports.
One last.
And then it doesn't. It says it's cracking on the the scroller. It's like cracking inside cracking. It's not Blazers basketball. So you got to know when the games start to watch it. It's a
mess. Everything has been a mess. So self-care is to put yourself first. And if you don't want to deal with it, don't feel bad. Find other things to do. Anything. But and by anything, it's read a book, go for a walk, listen to the game, watch the game. Don't take it too serious. Watch other games. Watch just for players. Like the Greg Brown dunk at the end of the Denver game was the best thing I saw all week. Like that was sick. And that's actually my good junior is the Greg Brown dunk. And one thing that I'm going to add to my bad is Chauncey Billups not standing up for his youngster. He had a chance when asked about his thoughts to really champion Greg and say, yeah, I thought that was awesome. But he said, no, I probably wouldn't have done it in my day due to the unwritten rules. Well, you know what? Fuck unwritten rules. If unwritten rules were so sacred, guess what? They would be written. Quit being old curmudgeons and let the kids have fun. NBA basketball is sports and entertainment. And what Greg Brown did was sports, and it was really fucking entertaining. So I salute you, Greg Brown. To pull off an East Bay Funk in game was absolutely ridiculous. Keep doing it. I don't care if it pisses off Chauncey Billups one iota.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, when I'm with my family, my mom or my brother asks about the other coach, and I'll bring up like, some random thing I've seen or, like whatever. And then I'll be like, yeah, but I would die to have fucking any coach on this team. Like, oh, we're playing the New Orleans. Like, yeah, they're really bad, but I would kill that Willie Green. Like, I fucking hate watching Chauncey Billups' teams play basketball. Like, I can't even, like, it's elementary shit that he doesn't get, and it pisses me the fuck off.
It's the risk you take when you hire a brand new head coach. But real quick, Sage, about these unwritten rules, I'm curious as to when scoring, when the game was already wrapped up, became taboo, because as I mentioned, I watch a ton of old Blazer basketball. Clyde Drexler would do that shit all the time. Like he would just go down and dunk on teams and nobody cared. They kind of just like shook hands after the game. Like it just seems like only in the past like 10 or 15 years that people are like all up in arms when somebody tries to dunk. And like, I really don't care. Like maybe don't get your ass kicked.
Yeah. Like I remember when Russ got mad at Bagley. No, not Bagley. One of the Oklahoma City guys from stealing the ball and running it down. Baisley.
Darius Baisley.
I knew it had a B and an A. Like, dog, don't blow the lead to the worst team in existence right now. Like, I don't know, man. Like, isn't this about entertainment? Like,
yes.
Like, I feel like NBA basketball is two things: entertainment business and relationship business. Like if you want to make this thing as entertaining as possible. So this unwritten rule bullshit, I don't.
Starting to sound like old white man baseball.
Let the kids have fun. I truly don't care that Greg Brown was disrespectful.
I'm glad he was disrespectful.
Weren't we kicking their ass? The fact
Yes.
that Greg Brown is in the game right now is disrespectful enough to you. Like, let's be real. Greg Brown shouldn't see a minute of game time. If this was a competitive game, he wouldn't be in. Do your work in the first 47 minutes of the game instead of getting mad at he's 19 years old.
Yeah.
He's expressing himself. The fact that he's made kind of a brand about the East Bay Funk Dunk, good for him. He's not making that much money in comparison to every other player on the team.
Let him eat.
Create a brand around it, man. Like, how many people have done it? Like Ricky Davis?
Not
maybe
many.
Josh Smith? Like, that's dope. I want to buy the Top Shot. Like, that should be his rookie moment. That probably will be.
All right, Sage, let's look ahead. 4-game homestand coming up for the Trailblazers. They play a back-to-back against the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons, who have number 1 pick Cade Cunningham on the roster, are 4-16 on the season, second worst in the Eastern Conference, and they sport just a 2-8 record away from the Motor City. They are currently on a 6-game losing streak. What does Portland have to look out for when it comes to playing the Detroit Pistons? Is it really just a letdown because it's a weaker opponent, or is there something schematically, or is there a matchup that could give Portland fits?
I think Cade Cunningham's size could be a really big problem. He's like a 6'7" point guard. I mean, right now, I haven't looked at his stats in a minute since I've been at my mom's, but at the beginning of the year, he was like an all-time bad shooter. But in college, he was a 40% three-point shooter. So eventually it's going to normalize where he is hitting threes. And what I think is awesome about Cade Cunningham currently is that he's getting all the other stats. Like, he's getting 7 rebounds, getting 8 assists. Once the shooting comes, he's going to be a fucking problem. And you know what's a get-right game? Going against the Portland Trailblazers when you're the one with the ball in your hand. Who is going to guard Cade Cunningham? They run a tall lineup. Like, Cade Cunningham, 6'7". Sadiq Bey is 6'8". Jeremy Grant, 6'8". Like, they have a lot of long, lanky dudes. How are we going to stop this team on the offensive end since we have 3 right now, 6'3" guards? How are we going to play defense? So I think the matchup between the guards and wings is going to be the biggest matchup.
I'll be interested to see who matches Isaiah Stewart's energy.
Yeah. Dude, we were so wrong on him as a player because he did not show this potential at UW.
No, he didn't.
No, I like him. Like, I like this team. I watched him when Kelly Olynyk was running center. This is a fun team. They're bad, but they're going to play athletic. They're going to play hard. They have 3 point of attack defenders. We don't have one.
Portland then takes on the San Antonio Spurs on Thursday. The Spurs are 6-13, currently 12th in the Western Conference. Again, not a good road team, 2-7 away from San Antonio, but they have won 2 straight games. Sage, this isn't your mom's or your grandma's San Antonio Spurs. A lot of new faces and not many familiar ones, but there is one in DeJounte Murray that you mentioned.
My boy. Yeah, he's again, a lot of studying is about production. My man fills up the stat sheet in every category. He gets like 18 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, gets 2 steals. Like, he fills up that box score.
Plays good defense.
Oh, god damn. He plays great defense. Like, DeJounte is one of my favorite players in the league right now. He is a fucking menace to society on the defensive end. Like, I don't think they're a good team right now, but DeJounte's great. Jake Puddle, Jakob Pertl is a very good defensive center. Don't like, the name might be a little goofy, but dude can block some shots. He is a good defender.
I think Blazer fans remember Jakob Pertl from last year's MLK game where he single-handedly shifted momentum
I
outworked
remember
everyone
that.
on the boards. Yeah, this is kind of a tricky game because Popovich teams always play hard and they can get on you, especially they have Keldon Johnson as well, who played on the Olympic team. You
Devin
mentioned
Vassell.
Pirtle, Devin Vassell.
My boy. Shit, I had a really good point. Shit. Oh, Greg Popovich is a really good coach too. They definitely win on the coaching front. That was not my good point. They actually are a pretty tall team too, with Derek White being the 2, Keldon.
They just smacked
Oh,
the
now I know
Wizards
what I remember.
by 17 tonight.
You know who I want on that? If you know who I want, Neil or whoever the GM is to trade for, we need a vet. I want Thaddeus Young on my team. I think
a lot of contending teams are going to go after Thaddeus Young.
Yeah, like I think he would be pretty perfect for that vet role. He's a legitimately good player still. If you watch the Bulls last year, he was the X factor for that team. He doesn't get as much run as he should. I think San Antonio at the deadline should trade him, and I would love for him to fill that vet role for the Portland Trailblazers.
Up next will be the Boston Celtics, who are off to a rocky start as well. 11-10 on the season, currently 11th in the Eastern Conference, 500 on the road with 6 victories, and they have won 1 in a row. They do have size on the wing, which we know gives Portland fits. Sage, what should Portland be on the lookout for?
This is one of the games where Jusuf Nurkic needs to play 30-plus minutes. The one weakness, well, many weaknesses for the Celtics, but the one that was the most glaring for the longest time, bad rebounding team. Jusuf Nurkic is a top 10 rebounder in the league, according to the Jazz announcers, so I'll believe them. I think Jusuf Nurkic needs to put his imprint on this game from jump. Dame and CJ are going to be better than Marcus Smart and Dennis Schroeder, but where I want to see us really focus is on those boards, gang rebounding, boxing out, making sure that inept defensive rebounding team is inept against them. I mean, Jayson Tatum this year has been his most inefficient, and I think it's a lot of his favorite player is Kobe Bryant, so he's taking a lot of Kobe Bryant shots. Like, he is not dunking, he is not going to the rim.
2 of 16 in their most recent victory against the Toronto Raptors. If that
who's the general manager now that was
Brad Stevens?
Thank you. Brad Stevens did a lot of good plays for Jayson Tatum last year. Jayson Tatum doesn't finish around the rim well when there's contact, so he would do this. He would do this play where Daniel Tice set the screen on his guy, and he would just rim run. I don't see Ime doing that as much. So, like, I think that Jayson Tatum wants to be Kobe. He's not getting the plays called for him that allow him to have those easy baskets. So he might have that ceiling game against us. But right now he's playing at his most inefficient ever. But what I really want to see is us focusing on those boards. And Al Horford has really, really messed up production for Time Lord. I did not think that was going to happen, but Al Horford is the better player right now.
17-11 on over 50% shooting against those Raptors.
He took a vacation from while he was in OKC and decided to be a good player. It's crazy to see when you're happy playing basketball, you play a lot better.
Like a fine wine, Al Horford is just getting better with age. They have a team that really worries me in terms of they have a guy in Dennis Schroeder who can take over a game off of the bench. They have a guy in Marcus Smart who plays with a lot of hustle and heart and can really wreck a lot of the looks Portland's looking to get from the backcourt. You mentioned Robert Williams and Al Horford. They have got size and rebounding and defense. And then it's just the wings. When you look at Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, both can go.
We didn't talk about Jaylen Brown.
Yeah. They've got those wings that can take over a game, and we have no size. We have nobody to guard either player.
Nas can't guard them both.
This is going to be, and they also have Josh Richardson off the bench too. Like, so they have a lot of talent They're just starting to figure out how to play together. This could be a really good test for the Blazers. The last game of the week for Portland, the LA Clippers on the 6th of December. It'll be the fourth and final matchup.
Thank God.
Against the Clippers. Portland is down 2-1 in the series. Right now, the Clippers are fourth in the Western Conference, 11-9 on the season, just 2-4 away from Staples Center. So they haven't played too many games away from Los Angeles. Lost one game, but we know they have been good at home against Portland. Portland had their way despite Paul George going for 42 in the first game in the Rose City. Batum broke out last game. Luke Kennard's had his way in one of the first two games. Just thinking of all of the different ways the Clippers have kind of given us fits.
Didn't Reggie have a good one?
Yeah. Yes. And of course, Paul George. So they are kind of putting it together. And I said this on one of the earlier episodes, but despite the injury, the Clippers are treating this season like they're contending. Like they feel like they are in the upper echelon of the NBA. And they know that once they get Kawhi Leonard back, they are a threat. So even without Kawhi, their best player, they're still holding it down, fighting and believing because they have that hope. I don't see that same mentality from a healthy Portland roster. So it'll be interesting to see, with this being the fourth matchup, basically it'll make the teams even in the tiebreaker with other scenarios would say who has the tiebreaker, that Portland has to get this win with the West being so tight 4 through 10. So this is the most important game of the week for me. Is there anything that we haven't seen over the first 3 games that you're looking for? Or is there something that you think could rear its ugly head and be of menace to the Trailblazers?
I think Serge Ibaka being back. I don't remember him being there for the first 2. He might have been back in a limited capacity, but think about the Clippers defense. Paul George, Mann.
I forgot Terrence Mann. Yeah, Terrence Mann basically saved them against the Utah Jazz in the postseason last year. He can go out for 30 on a given night.
I feel like their guys don't talk much, and Serge Ibaka is very vocal. So having a guy that can speak and talk to his defense, that could be a new level of like rotations and defensive pressure to have Serge back. So maybe a better defense from them, a better initial attack, better rotations. So that might be the one. But I mean, we played them so many times in the first month and a half of the season that we know what they're doing and they know what we're doing. So who can out execute the other?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to role players in this one. Isaiah Hartenstein came off the bench and had 14 points on 6 of 7 shooting the last meeting. Ibaka did play just only 5 minutes, but Nicholas Batum had 22 points. And I believe that was the announcer said that was his first 20-point game in something like 4 seasons. So
he got that back from Charlotte, bro.
If you're getting those type of productions from unexpected sources, who is going to match that on Portland's end? Is it going to be an Anthony Simons? Are you going to get a big game from Nasir or Tony Snell? Or is Covington going to do what he did against the Indiana Pacers and come up clutch with 3 after 3? Is Larry Nance going to go 6 of 7? So who on Portland's, I think, unexpected player list can exceed or you just match the Clippers and then let Dame and CJ and Norm, if Norm's back by this point, really do what they can against PG and Reggie.
Is this a Yusuf Nurkic game?
I don't think so.
Because he can match Zubac pretty easily. And then Hartenstein, he could defend too. Are we going to see a 28 plus minutes played?
I mean, he played 27 in the last game, and he had a great game statistically, 15, 13, 6 dimes, only 2 turnovers, only missed 3 shots. But yet you look at the finals, Portland gives up 117, and their bigs were busy. Isaiah Hartenstein did a lot of work against the Portland Trailblazers.
I remember it was mostly pick and roll, and not used his responsibility on that.
Teams are making Portland pay for playing
3 guards.
Yeah. And Nurk and Covington can't cover everything. So I honestly think this needs to be a game where Portland just gets something out of Robert Covington. Like if you're going to start, you can't be 2 of 8. You can't be 0 of 3. He's going to have to keep the defenses honest. So it allows a little bit of wiggle room.
At least shoot the damn ball.
Yeah. And then my other X factor is Norman Powell. If we, again, remember, go back to that game, he was on fire, dribbling to the basket, taking his man off the bounce, getting to the cup, easy buckets. Chauncey sits him and sits him and sits him. He comes in. It's too late. The tide had turned, and Portland completely went away from Norman Powell, and the game was lost. So I think those two things, Portland's starting forwards, what are you going to get from them? And I think they really need to look at Powell. He can take his man and feed him. Just like we talked about the Oregon Ducks earlier on, making things harder for themselves. The Blazers do the exact same thing. Something working. Like, no, let's just try something else, like just for the hell of it. That's what they like to do. No, go to the well, keep going to the well until that shit dries out.
All right. You ready to wrap this up? We are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Himalaya Podcast, Dash Radio, Nothing But Net Radio, Tuesdays 2 to 3, 4 to 5 Eastern, and be good to each other, and we're out of here.
Wherever you may be, this is Bill Shinley. Good night, everybody.
Let's